Let's talk about Kyle Shanahan. So, Kyle Shanahan, what did he do in this game? He had 13 points in the first half. They were doing okay. And then things started going really bad. They start falling apart in the third quarter. Midway through the third quarter, the defense can't stop anyone. They're gassed. They're terrible. And Kyle Shanahan just accepts it and goes slow with his offense, huddles up, takes a really long time. He didn't go up-tempo until 5 minutes left in the game. I'm sorry. I know he doesn't have a great offensive line and a great quarterback, but this is his team. He put it together. It's year 6. He didn't inherit this. This is his baby from 1 through 53 on the roster. And despite all the skill players who played well, Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey, Wilson, 23 points, 10 points in the second half. And just utterly shown up by Andy Reid. How could Jed York watch this game and not lose confidence in Kyle Shanahan? How could he not? How could he watch this game and not feel nostalgic about the Harbaugh era? Not that I'm saying the Niners should get rid of Kyle and bring back Harbaugh, because he had his issues too. But man, he was a much better coach than Kyle. It's not even close. It's not even close. The Niners defense was not prepared to play this game. Too many times this year, the Niners are just not prepared to play. How often did you ever see that with the Jim Harbaugh team? They might lose, but it wasn't like, except for the Super Bowl, they were not prepared for the Super Bowl. But most of the time, they were prepared to play, which is why he lost. Jim Harbaugh still has more wins with the 49ers in his 4 years than Kyle Shanahan has in year 6. Still! And he was here today. So, when Kyle Shanahan traded for Christian McCaffrey, two things. One, people said, okay, well, the Niners' offense is going to be unstoppable now. The other thing people said was, well, now there's a lot of pressure on Kyle because he has no excuses. You know, he could have added anything to his team. Instead, he could have added a corner. He could have added an offensive lineman, a quarter, anything. He wanted a running back. Everyone said it was a great trade. Everyone says he's a great running back. Well, Kyle, you got to score more than 23 points. This defense, the Kansas City defense, came into the game giving up 24.8. It's a crappy defense. They don't have much talent on it. They got Frank Clark, Chris Jones, is that his name? Chris Jones, Carlos Dunlap. That's about it. And the Niners scored 23 points. So that means despite all this talent, this offense is only really good enough to score, to put up against a team what that team gives up normally. The Chiefs came into the game giving up 24.8. I thought, okay, well, the Niners, they can do better than that. They'll score 27. No, they'll do worse. With Christian McCaffrey, they were average like 5 yards a carry. They threw for 300 yards, scored 23 points. Couldn't do anything in the red zone. Meanwhile, Andy Reid is just like putting on a red zone freaking clinic, jet sweep. I mean, just long touchdown runs, uncontested. Kyle, were you taking notes? I feel like Kyle Shanahan's stock is just dropping weekly. What's the excuse this week? Oh, Jimmy's his quarterback. Well, who picked him? He could have had any quarterback he wanted, or he could have kept Trey Lance healthy. He could have used Trey Lance as a quarterback. Instead, no, use him as a running back because you have to play running back if you're going to be on this team. Now he's got Jimmy, and now the offense stinks. And it's not Jimmy's fault. It's half Jimmy's fault and half Kyle's fault. Once Kyle gets through his script, his offense sucks, and it doesn't matter who's on the field. Maybe if he had Patrick Mahomes, his offense wouldn't suck after the first script. But you know what? He didn't want Patrick Mahomes. Had a chance to have him, didn't want him. So it's interesting. I mean, last year, the Debo Samuel running back thing saved the season. Is Christian McCaffrey going to save the season? Doesn't look like it. So what's Kyle got? How is he going to turn this around? They got the Rams next week. They should beat the Rams. And if they're 4-4 at the 8-game mark, that's better than last year. But, again, the Rams aren't good. And the Niners have a pretty favorable schedule coming up. But eventually they're going to have to, show they can beat a good team. And they haven't shown that in a very long time. This team hasn't shown they can do that. Last year they beat some good teams. This team hasn't shown they can do that. So, starting to look at, Kyle Shanahan is fool's gold. His offense stinks. His team is undisciplined. All those penalties. Other than that, great coach.